there. Long time no see. Welcome back to Snap Keep MTG. Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, I don't remember being subscribed to you. Well, here we are 3 years later, and I am just energized, enthused, and want to talk about some Timeless. If you don't know what Timeless is the newest format on MTG Arena. Basically, it is Arena vintage. Everything is legal. There's a small list of restricted cards with no bans. So, especially with the influx of cards like in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, in the extra cards outside of the set that you can open in packs, such as Mana Drain or in our case Reanimate, we have access to a lot of powerful cards, a lot of stuff banned in other formats. That was my quick spiel on Timeless, and I want to get into my favorite deck in the format. And this is a deck that I have brewed, actually. There are lots of different variations upon decks built around the card Death Shadow. If you're familiar with Modern or Legacy, then you know what this card is, but in case you do not, Death Shadow is 1 mana, single black for a 13/13 creature avatar. But Death Shadow gets -X, where X is your life total. So the name of the game in Death Shadow strategy is to use your life total as a resource, get it down as quickly as possible, and that way, really early as turn 2 in some cases in our deck, or turn 3, we can play a Death Shadow that is, a 4/4, 5/5, and just keeps growing as the game goes on, and hopefully we can close out the game that way. Now, there are lots of different strategies using Death Shadow and Timeless. I'd say the most popular is probably the Grixis Death Shadow version. That's a deck playing a similar package to what we're playing, but with the blue, they get Treasure Cruise, they get Expressive Iteration, they get Spell Pierce, the like. Some of them run Snapcaster in the deck. But for us, we're going real simple. We are going Rakdos, just strictly black-red Death Shadow. And let's talk about why I think this is a good choice in the meta right now. So Death Shadow we've already talked about. Let's just go over the rest of our threat package here. We have got Dragon's Rage Channeler, one of the staples of the format. 1 mana, 1/1, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Surveil 1. If you have 4 different card types in your graveyard, it gets +2/+2 flying and must attack each combat. Just a very efficient threat. Helps us fill our yard for some of the synergies in our deck we'll get to shortly. Next up, we've got Deathright Shaman, banned card and Modern. The 1 mana Planeswalker, as people like to call it. Just the flexibility here is amazing. It can be a mana dork for us in a fetch land format, which we are, by exiling a land to add mana. The second ability to exile instant sorcery cards from graveyards to deal damage can help us push through to the end. And then with the advent of Reanimate in the format, which we are utilizing, other decks are as well, the last ability to exile a creature card from a graveyard to gain 2 life. The life gain is nice. It's kind of counterintuitive to what we're trying to do, but the important part there is that we can exile things from our opponent's graveyard in response to them trying to reanimate them. Next up, we have Orcish Bowmasters. Orcish Bowmasters, absolutely busted card. If you play Arena, you might be familiar with the nerfed version in Historic, but we have the full-powered version here. Though it doesn't synergize with the rest of what we're doing, really, it's just too powerful not to play. It picks off opponents' X1 threats. It can pick off a Ragavan, pick off opposing Orcish Bowmasters, and then really punishes people for wanting to draw cards. Flashing this in response to a Brainstorm is just backbreaking. Is a line that people are well aware of, and just this card being present in the format makes people play their decks way differently than they would otherwise. Next up, we've got Inti. Inti, also a really cool card. This is kind of a card advantage engine for us, so whenever you attack, you may discard a card. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. It gains Trample until the end of turn. Now, whenever you discard a card, you can exile a top card of your library. You can play that card until your next end step. This is great paired with our Death Shadow. Being able to give it trample when we've got a big guy and they've got some little chumpers is super relevant. And then just the ability for that card advantage engine with the discard and exiling, being able to play those till the end of turn, that is huge and can push us over the edge there. Then last, let's talk about our last threat and the thing that I am doing different that I don't see other Shadow decks doing right now. And that is I am playing a Reanimate package in this deck. So Reanimate, even without the other half, I think is great in Death Shadow's decks. It pulls back our threats. We are in a format where people are filtering their cards. We have other Reanimate strategies. People are pitching Atraxas. People are cycling for their trolls, which we have as well. We're just killing threats. Like we take threats out of hand with our hand removal and can put into the yard to then reanimate it. Like it's just so flexible, so good. The life loss is actually an advantage in our deck because we want to lose life for our Death Shadow. So Reanimate is just excellent, even if we are just hitting an Orcish Bowmasters or one of our opposing opponents like Deathright Shaman we killed or something. It's still good, and we don't have to be greedy and wait to play this with the nuts, which is, of course, Troll of Khazad Doom, multi-format, all-star, 6/5, big old boy. Can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, and then the big part is it has swamp cycling. So for 1 mana, you can discard it, search your library for a swamp, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. This helps us get our lands. We're playing a super light mana base here, only 18 lands, so this is essentially 4 extra copies of cards that helps us get our lands. And Troll paired with Reanimates means that as early as turn 2, we can reanimate a Troll, put it onto the battlefield. The nuts hand is something like turn 1, fetch land, Thoughtseize our opponents, puts us down to 15 life. Turn 2, play another fetch land into a shock, we're down to 12. You pitch the Troll to its own ability. You reanimate it. We're down to 6 life, but then on next turn you can stop dropping Death Shadows, you can start attacking opponents. Like, it gets very out of hand very quickly, and most of the removal in the format comes in the form of damage-based removal or Fatal Push for the most part, which Troll dodges both of those. There are decks with the Path to Exiles with the Swords to Plowshares, however, those decks are not super common. And then the last part of the deck, just our interaction and card draw here. Mishra's Bauble essentially makes it so we're playing a 56 card deck so that we can just play it for free, draw a card off of it, cantrip. Excellent card. This paired with the Dragon's Rage Channeler is good synergy as well. We've got 7 discard spells in a deck. We've got Inquisition of Kozilek in 3, and then 4 Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is great with the life loss with the Death Shadow. These cards are super important in main deck to fight against the other degenerate decks in the format, like Show and Tell, that we need to be able to interact with their hands. And like I said, being able to pick off opponents' threats and opponents' big creatures and then reanimate it, also big moves. And then we've got our interaction removal package. We've got 4 copies of Lightning Bolts. Can go face to end the game, or it can pick off creatures. And then Unholy Heat as a 2 of, deals 6 damage if you have Delirium turned on, so it can kill opposing Death Shadows, it can kill Tarmogoyfs, and it can also pick off Planeswalkers. So that is our deck. This is a best of 3 deck. We've got a sideboard that's still a work in progress. We are a Giganta deck because nothing in our deck has 2 or more of the same colored mana pips. Really quickly, got Stone of Eric in order to deal with the Golgari Yawgmoth deck. We've got 2 copies of Bitter Triumph for the Jund matchup, and other matchups where we might be dealing with threats that are going bigger than ours, we can remove it. Roiling Vortex. This is good against the Show and Tell matchup. Show and Tell, anytime they'll cast their free spells, will take 5 damage. And then also anything that's wanting to gain life as a way to shut us down. Any of the Uro type decks, the Omnath decks, this is a good thing to bring in. Unlicensed Hearse, anything that is using a graveyard strategy, this is good to pick off. Anyone that This is good against the Dimir self-mill deck to pick off cards. Any other reanimate strategies this card is really good against. This is actually pretty good in like the Jund matchup and things like that. It's just an inevitable threat that can just sit there throughout the game and then late game get in there. We've got 2 copies of Duress and 1 Inquisition. These will come in versus control matchups, versus show and tell matchup, versus combo matchups. Speaking of combo, we've got 3 copies of Surgical Extraction. Surgical Extraction paired with any of our discard spells, we can pick out a combo piece out of our opponent's hand, then remove all of the copies of the combo from their deck, and often end the game right there. It also has the Phyrexian mana so that we can just take the damage, hurt ourselves, and pump up our shadow. And that is our deck. So we're going to get into some games here, take it for a spin, pop back for that video here in a couple of days if you want to see how this deck does. Leave in the comments if you have any suggestion or thoughts on this deck. I appreciate everyone watching, and I will see you for the gameplay.